Okay, so we're here. Well, pardon me, not a great start. We're here for the Grappling with Physio podcast, episode 40. Now, there are quite a few things that are coincidental. We're joined again by Steve Brown. Steve, last time we spoke, it was episode 30. That was 10 months ago. 10 episodes later, we're on episode 40. So, but thanks for coming back on, mate. And a lot's happened with yourself since then that I'm aware of anyway. You've self-published a new book. So the fourth book now, you've self-published a new book, Regimental,
yep.
Available on Amazon, which went live a few days ago. I'll be able to I can bring that up in a minute and we'll share it because I've got it ready on the screen. And you've also opened up your own BJJ school where you've affiliated with another previous guest and former bootneck close protection officer, bit of an all-round MMA fighting legend with leopard print hair, Mark Tucker.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it's all going on. Going on.
Yeah, just fill us in. How's the last 10 months been, Steve? It seems like you've been busy, mate.
Yeah, I've been busy, mate. I was writing that book. That book I was doing before that anyway. It's taken me a long time to get that one done. Well over a year, I think. Yeah, jiu-jitsu. I was doing some self-defense training anyway, and doing a couple of private sort of classes, mostly kind of self-defense. And then I started doing some ladies self-defense classes as a kind of community project that they were running at Wax Sports Centre in Newquay. And it just, kind of started growing from there, really. A fair bit of interest. So I thought, well, just see where we can go. And kind of the self-defense is really jiu-jitsu based or BJJ based self-defense, to be fair, because I'm a massive fan of it. I just thought, well, I'll do ladies class, and then I went into mixed class, and then I spoke to Mark Tucker, and he was happy to support me. So under his Combat Athletics Academy banner. So I'm Combat Athletics Academy Wadebridge / Newquay. It was just Wadebridge at first, and then now it's Wadebridge Newquay. And it's growing nice and steady, mate. We've got a really good team. Obviously, Mark comes down and does seminars for us on a regular basis. I still train with Mark in Liscard at his club. So it's just growing nicely, mate. We've got a really, really good bunch, a really good team, no egos. Everyone's trying to learn. Everyone's passionate about jiu-jitsu. And I do like combatives, BJJ. So like my no-gi stuff is, I do no-gi and gi. I do 2 classes of each a week. But the no-gi I kind of focus on. I don't focus on, but I always highlight any kind of self-defense aspect as well. We talk about sport aspects and the points and all the rest of it as well. But I like, especially in the no-gi, I like to talk about what available targets, what we can do in a real-time situation, how we can use things like the concrete or a wall or headbutts, knees, elbows, and all that sort of stuff while we're in a dominant position, rather than just talking about getting the submission. Especially when it's like, it's especially prevalent with the girls' classes where they're, or the ladies' self-defense class, where they're, they can feel really vulnerable and overpowered. So, I like to show that a bit of technique and some good conceptual knowledge can go a long way and make a massive difference. And I kind of like, for example, with that, what I've done a couple of times now is I'll take something into the class, such as a tea towel or a pillowcase, or it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a dog lead, anything, just a piece of material, and I'll show how you can use that. That can just basically represent the collar on a gi. And so, because I think we lose the concept sometimes about what we're trying to achieve, and we really focus on the grip and where we grab and all this. It's like, so I take tools in. It could be a paper bag, it could be a paper bag, could be a plastic bag, could be anything, any piece of material. I'll say, in BJJ with a gi, this would be the collar or the lapel. In a real fight, in a real self-defense situation, this could be anything I just find lying on the floor. If I'm in my bed being attacked, I can use a corner of a sheet, and I can do exactly the same choke or submission. And it's not a submission. It's in a real fight, in a real street fight. It's choke someone until they're no longer a threat. So I kind of try and bring that concept in as well, mate. I'm kind of waffling on a bit, but I like to do the real-time aspect aspect and a real-time utility of jiu-jitsu and submissions, as well as the sport aspect as well. I think a lot of people haven't had that sort of side of it explained to them before, so it's quite useful. I think Mark Tucker's a big fan of that, and I've learned a lot of that sort of stuff from him and his conceptual way of teaching. So yeah, I'm just passing that on as well. It's working out really good so far, mate. Yeah,
good stuff. I mean, who'd have thought an ex-Royal Marine and an ex-para, good marriage made in heaven. Mark's a great guy, and he was a great he was a great guest on the podcast, and I do need to have him back on again soon. Opening up the own school, did it just feel like it was the right time? Did you just feel, yeah, I've got enough knowledge to do this? Or was there a certain situation where you just felt like, no, I want to move on with this, or I'm ready for it?
Yeah, a bit of both really, mate. I've always done a bit of teaching. So like, when I'm moving around with the military, I've always looked for a school wherever I've been, and I know I found some really good schools. But I've also been in some places where there is not a school local, or or I want to train while I'm in camp, without traveling anywhere. So I've always looked for other people to train with. Sort of as a result of that, for quite a few years now, I've kind of ended up just kind of heading up classes. Not that wasn't my original intent. My intent was to find someone who could run a class, and then I could join in. But a few times it's happened where it's like, no one else either wants to do it, or no one's got any experience. And I'm like, well, see who turns up. And it's just so happened where it's like I'm the one. It naturally just fell on me to sort of run the sessions, if you like. So I've been taking classes for quite a few years, in an informal context. So yeah, but I've always I kind of been some clubs where I just feel like I'm not learning anymore, or the style of teaching doesn't suit me so well, and then other people I've spoke to have gone, yeah, I feel the same way, and I'm like, well, why don't we all get together and train the way we want to train? So there's a bit of that as well. But yeah, it was the right time. I've got my brown belt from Mark. I don't think belts are a be all and end all at all, but it kind of it definitely helps you. It gives you a bit of for the outsider looking in, it gives you that bit of extra credibility. Rightly or wrongly, no gi, there is no belt, so it's you can argue the case either way. I mean, just having a belt doesn't make you a good teacher. Obviously, it doesn't. You could be a black belt and be not very good at coaching or teaching. You could be a white belt and be an excellent instructor at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. Last time we kind of spoke on the podcast, I was asking how you were getting on with your transition into kind of civilian life, and your response was, I still don't, although it's only been a couple of years, it's been a couple of years and 10 months, you didn't really feel that much kind of, I don't know, civilianized or adapted, or how's that whole process going now, Steve?
Yeah. So, I mean, I haven't really experienced it, mate, that much, to be fair. I've been out for now February. Yeah, for February 20. What year are we? I don't know.
23.
Feb
23.
Right. Mate. Yeah, right. So I've been out. I must have been out 3 years. Must have been out 3 years now. I thought it was 2. But yeah, I mean, I got out. I got a job in a sports centre. Did that for a bit. Didn't particularly enjoy it all that much. Didn't feel like I was getting much out of it. Then furlough, COVID, got furloughed, and then I've just been writing and trying to build up my school over the last year. So yeah, I haven't really found my place in city streets still, I'd say. But ideally, I'll just stick with, I've got to get my military pension. I'll get some money from writing from the books, the clubs. I make a few, obviously not a lot, but I make a few quid from the club at the minute. Hopefully that can grow. Yeah, that's where I'd rather stay, to be fair. Sort of my own boss. It's difficult, mate. You've done it. A lot of other people have done it. Transitioning from the military to civvy street. I've written a fair bit about it in my latest book. And yes, it's quite difficult, mate. It is quite difficult. A lot more difficult than I thought it would be anyway. I didn't really give it the respect that it deserved. You know how difficult it can be. It's just trying to find a place to fit in. And to be fair, again, going back to me and Mark Tucker, I think that's been really useful for me, because Mark's obviously ex-military himself, and he's massively into martial arts. So you know, I found someone with a lot of common ground. That's the main thing in the army. You know, all your mates, everyone in the army, you've got a lot of common ground straight away. Same as when you go take your dog for a walk. If you meet someone else walking a dog, straight away you've got something in common. You know, it's really easy to talk to someone because you talk about their dogs. Same in jiu-jitsu or BJJ or any martial arts club. You know, you can talk about, you might talk about the UFC at the weekend, or Polaris, or one of the grappling competitions. It's easy. But when you haven't got that sort of basis to work from someone, I guess it's the same for everybody, not just military. I think I can just talk about my own personal experiences, but jiu-jitsu especially has really helped me find a lot of good friends out since leaving the military. Nearly all my civvy mates are through jiu-jitsu. Nearly all of them. You know, and I've had some mates where I've known them for a couple of years or a few years, and all we've done is try to choke each other out in class. You know, have a few words after class. You know, walk into the car. Don't really know that much about them, but you know, consider them good friends. You've just been, but you have to, you know. No, you know, especially in BJ, you have to really put your trust in. So I was talking about this to someone the other day. There's a hell of a lot of trust, and they compare it to a trust fall. You know, when you just fall backwards and get someone to and expect your mate to catch you, yeah, they're like, it's a bit like that in jiu-jitsu, because you've got to trust that person to let go when you tap. And it's like, if they don't let go, you know, bad things can happen to you. But you know, I think that's why you get on. You can make some pretty strong friendships in jiu-jitsu real quick, because you put in your lot. You could. It sounds a bit dramatic. You could say you're putting your life in someone else's hands and trusting them to let go when you tap. But yeah, transition to civvy streets. Yeah, it's not that easy. You know, it's not that easy.
Do you feel more comfortable, Mark? Sorry, Mark. So it's just because we were talking about Mark. Steve, do you feel more comfortable in your kind of self?
What, as in when I'm teaching jiu-jitsu, or as in
No,
as I did more than I did before?
Yeah, as in since we last spoke. I'm only asking because as we're talking, I don't know whether it was just maybe our first podcast, but you seem so much more comfortable. You seem so much more articulate when you're talking now. We've had a few conversations anyway, and we've stayed in touch via WhatsApp. I don't know whether that's just because we're getting to know each other, but it does seem like from my perspective, from the outside looking in, it seems like you're settling, I suppose that's what I'm trying to get to. Do you feel like you're kind of settling down a little bit? I don't know. You may disagree. What do you think?
Yeah, you might be right, man. It's interesting, you know. Obviously, we're in comms, but we haven't like spoke at length for a while. But yeah, maybe. And actually, you saying that made me think. So I had an injection into my neck. Well, it goes in through the front of your neck into your spine.
Was it a facet joint injection?
It's called stellate ganglion block.
Oh, okay.
I think it's still quite new. In America, they've been doing it for quite a while. And a really good friend of mine actually sponsored it for me for not exactly sure how he did it, but it's for apparently this is second hand or third hand. So apparently a lot some US special forces guys, quite a few of them over the last 10, maybe even I think it's 10 years, so they've been getting a stellate ganglion block injection into their neck. And it's really helped them with like anxiety, depression, PTSD type stuff. And a good friend of mine got it. He thought it worked for him. He's British special forces bloke. He told me about it, asked me if I'd be interested, and then he basically got me onto the program as well. And to be fair, I think that's helped. I think that might that might have made a big difference, mate. That might be what you're seeing, you know. After that was a few months ago I had that done. I think that did work a bit. I think that calmed me down quite a lot. I'm not as anxious as I used to be. So yeah, stellate ganglion block is it's still, I think, in the early stages, but some people it's worked for them. They've had one injection and have been a lot better for years afterwards, never needed another one. And some people apparently have need another one 6 months down the line. And then there's two, I think there's two, so they can go on either side. Yeah, they just put an injection in through the front, but it goes, they're actually injecting into the spinal cord. So the front of your spinal cord. So yeah, maybe it's that, mate.
Well, I mean,
Honest,
you've kind of talked about this in your other book. So you'd be nuts too. Meatheads, not so much, but you'd be nuts too. Don't ask, and obviously the most recent one, Regimental. Your hypervigilance.
Yeah.
Do you feel that that's getting better? So for those that don't know, Steve has expressed in the past that you feel hypervigilant a lot of the time when you're around in public places, around people. You're constantly looking. If you go and sit into a cafe, it used to be with your back to the wall, looking for the escapes, looking for your route out, etc. Assessing people coming by, thinking, what type of threat is he to me? He looks quite big for me to. If he does anything, you've already planned your kind of like attack, as in, right, I'll take him down by the knee, then whilst I'm on him, I'll mount him, and then boom, 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 that's that threat over and done with. Is that still something that you're dealing with, or has that got better? Or
yeah, it's got better. It's definitely got better. I still sort of think about it all the time, but it's not. It doesn't get me so anxious. I've got a lot more control over it, to be honest. But yeah, it's but I think that again, I think since that's so I had that stellate ganglion block injection, and then I thought actually, saying to my mate who organised it for me, I think this has helped me out quite a lot. And I started reducing the medication I take to sort of combat that, like an antidepressant type medication.
Is that sertraline?
No, I was on that. That was a nightmare. No, it's fluoxetine.
Oh, okay.
It's it's Prozac, basically. Apparently, anyway. Well, so I'm told it's what it used to be called Prozac. So yeah, but I basically halved my medication on that because I thought maybe because I know other people have done that after the stellate ganglion. So half my medication. Obviously, I've been on it for a long time, so it's going to be some kind of reaction anyway. But I gave it about a month, but I could really feel that hypervigilance starting to come back real quite strong again, like I hadn't felt for a while. So I thought, no, we'll put back on. I mean, I was self-medicating. I did that off my own back. I was reducing my meds, but no, I gave it a good crack at the whip, sort of about a month, but I could feel it coming back quite strongly, and I was getting pretty anxious and having a lot of violent thoughts. So I was like, get back on the meds, back onto my normal dose as prescribed by the person who actually knows about this stuff, rather than me just guessing. But yeah, I think the injection's been good, mate. But yeah, the hypervigilance is still there, and I know I'm not alone on that. There's so many people, not just military, police, loads of people, loads of people with childhood trauma. I'm not making up I'm extraordinary or anything like that. It's just I'm just telling people my own experiences. But yeah, hypervigilance is quite can be quite all-consuming, because it's like every person. So crowded places are a nightmare because you're constantly looking to and assessing the environment and every individual, as in a fighting age man, and just trying to work. I don't really look people in the eye. I realised a while ago I'm just scanning all the time. It's like peripherals, just trying to and just like gauging my surroundings all the time. So I miss people quite a lot, actually. People who I know. I don't see them a lot of the time because I'm more kind of just looking for I don't know, macro rather than micro. I'm just like,
yeah, that must be
people acting agitated.
That must be exhausting. That must be exhausting. I've probably experienced. I can't remember because it feels like it was a while since I left, but I probably experienced it in the early stages after I left, but not. I'm so far past that now. I think it's taken a long time, but yeah, I mean, you talk heavily about this in the book. So whilst we're on that, actually, I noticed that the dog was popping its head up and getting involved. When did you get the dog, and how much of a help has the dog been to your mental health?
Yeah, that dog's a mega, mate. I mean, I had a golden retriever up until I think, oh, this one is nearly 2 years ago. He was nearly 16 when he died. He used to come. He did loads and loads of miles with me, running, tabbing, hill walking, all over the place, and that was good. So when I was back, actually, when he was, he was with me when I was really bad. Like I was, I don't think, like I say, I don't. It's not a boast because I'm not proud of it, but I really do think I was going fucking nuts, mate. I really do think I was going nuts and on a precipice of fucking, losing it and doing something really bad. Like killing someone or that's what I was worried I was going to do, to be honest. I was going to get so angry I was going to fucking kill someone. And I don't make out I'm any sort of tough guy, so I'm well aware that they could, so I could attack someone and they could kill me. I'm well aware of that, right? I'm not making out I'm anything special. But I was quite worried about that. But yeah, when I used to really have a snap, the first thing I used to do is get my running kit on, grab the lead, and go running with a dog. Just I'll be out the door within like a quick change parade. I'll be out in seconds. To get to such a flash point, I'm like a maniac. Get my trainers on, run, grab the dog. That was good. But this new dog we got, she's like 1.5 years. She's actually a lot more affectionate. It's a bitch. My last dog was a boy. But this one's like, if she thinks you're sad or upset or anything, she comes, sits on you and gives you a cuddle and stuff.
That's nice, mate.
Yeah, I think dogs are really good, mate. They get you out, and they force you to go out. Because if you, if you're just like feeling shit and you don't want to go out, that dog, if you care about your dog and the dog looking at you, it needs to go out. It will make you go out, even if you don't want to go out. At least get your little legs stretched, get a bit of fresh air. Yeah, I think dogs are really good therapy.
That's good, mate. I'm
fucking annoying as well, especially if you're trying to write a book. So don't get a puppy if you're trying to write a book. No idea. It's opening the door. Yeah. That's why my book. To be honest, that's why my book took so long. I think it's because I had a puppy running around and distracting me every 10 seconds.
Let's talk about that, Steve, the whole book writing process, because essentially you've self-published 4 books, which is phenomenal, absolutely fantastic. It seems to be you're just getting better at this. Has the self-publishing route worked just for you? Has it just been easier for you to do that? I suppose you're cutting out middlemen, but also as well, I mean, I don't know. You tell me what's that process been like?
Well, I think there's a couple of ways of looking at it, to be honest, Paul. It's like you could say, well, it's I appreciate what you're saying. It's like as in you can look at it as a good achievement, but then you could also say anyone can do it. Anyone can self-publish. It's really easy. It's just time. It's getting the words down, and it's a lot of time. Right? It costs nothing, to be honest. It costs you time. Outside of that, time and effort. Outside of that, it's free. If you do it the route I did it. And I did try and get the first one I finished, which was Meatheads, the novel I wrote. I did want to get that published because I think anyone who's written a book, it'd be great to walk past a bookstore and see it in, Waterstones or W.H. Smith's. It'd be great to see it on the shelf. But I put it out to a few publishers, and I had 6. I can't remember. I forget now. It was 6 or 8. So let's say 7 contracts, offers through different publishing houses. But they're all quite ambiguous. In fact, I think I wrote about it in Regimental a little bit. It's like you don't really understand the terminology, and it takes a long time. So it's like 8 weeks for them to get back to you, 6 to 8 weeks. Some are even longer, and they'll come back and say it's quite an ambiguous kind of contract. But generally, if you're not famous, they want you to put something in. It's worked at average about £2,500. You pay them. But they don't really say how many they're going to print or where they're going to where they're going to sell them. It's all very ambiguous. And then while I was waiting for them contracts, I'd actually written You'd Be Nuts Too. I wrote that really quick. I wrote that in 2 months. And I thought, hang on, now I was sat there with literally two full books on my laptop. Just I thought, no, do I start this whole process again? I was fishing around for agents. I said at least another 2 months. And I thought, I spoke to someone, a friend of mine, there's a friend of someone else who self-published, put me in contact with her. And I just thought, let's just get on with it. I'm never going to be a superstar or anything. It's just get it out there. So yeah, I just did it that way, mate. Self-publishing, it's quite user-friendly. You can, as we found out earlier, I'm not the best with IT, but I muddle through. And yeah, the latest book is the most polished, so far, because I've sort of learned a few mistakes on the way. So I've done a lot of editing. I spent a lot of time editing it. And I haven't actually got a copy of the completed version. I've got one like what I sent you. I've got a proof copy myself.
Right.
But I haven't actually even seen it, because I don't. That's the problem. You don't get any for free. People think you're gonna. Everyone's like, oh, give me a copy. Give me a. I haven't got a copy. I've got to buy them as well.
Right.
Someone like when someone wants someone's like, oh, can you give me a signed copy? I'm like, you buy it. I'll sign it. I'm happy with that. Or or I've got to buy it and then sign it and send it to you. And it's like you have to. Ideally, you'll pay me back for that, because otherwise it's just a waste of time doing it.
Yeah. Nothing's for free. Nothing's for free.
Nothing's free, mate. Yeah, that's in my book as well. Nothing's free.
That's your next one. I think whilst we're on Meatheads, I love that. And I think when I was reading that, I was going, wow, this is so good. It could be a film. It could either be a real good, like, British military film, or it could be something like a series, like an ITV, maybe even a standalone series. Do you remember the story? I know it's not his real name, but Chris Ryan's the one that got away.
Yeah.
That I think it was Paul Greengrass. Now I know Chris Ryan hates Paul Greengrass for butchering it and absolutely slating Vince. What's his name? He was the Section 2 IC.
I can't remember.
Vince. I'm not doing this guy any justice whatsoever. But he kind of butchered it to make it more dramatic, and it wasn't necessarily the truth, so it became kind of like fiction based on the events, etc. And that was because I think he got creative control. Chris Ryan got creative control took away from him. But I honestly think it's got potential, mate. If it's pitched right to, even something like Netflix, to just go, look, here you go. I'll sell you the rights to the story. I want creative rights. So when you are making it, I know that you're not going to mess it up, and you stick to the script, so to speak. But yeah, I really like the other books were fantastic. But Meatheads, I thought, God, considering you'd never done anything like that, it was fantastic, mate. It was a really good read, and I recommend anyone to read it. And I laughed at so many pieces, and I remember kept texting you saying, "Why, any chances so and so?" I don't want to give too much away, and you're going, "Yeah."
Yeah, just you. I've had a few messages like that.
Yeah,
it's all based. Yeah, it took a long time, because I was obviously in the military. But when I started writing, it was quite easy, because I was just looking around me, and it's easy to imagine for me. So I can put quite a lot of detail into the scenarios in there, because they're all based. Obviously, it's a story based in Afghanistan. When I started writing it, I was in Afghanistan. So it's I think the realism comes through quite well. But yeah, that was a long project, but it was good to get it out there. But yeah, I agree, Matt. I think it would make. I mean, it's just like, who's going to do the casting? I've been likened to. I'm not saying I don't see it, but a lot of people have told me in the past that they think I look like Jason Statham. So he'd have to. He might be too old now. I think he's even older than me. But I'd like, yeah, get him in. He could be like the lead character. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, it would make. I think it would make a good film. Yeah. Let's promote that. Maybe I can make a few quid out of that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, so they've all had good feedback. They've all had pretty good feedback, and you get mixed. I've had a couple of people I've had a couple of negatives on Amazon reviews. Some people obviously haven't even read the stuff they're trying to slate. Sometimes that's pretty obvious. Some people are like, oh, it's a bit rude or a bit violent. Someone complained once. It's like, well, it's supposed to be violent. That's the people. That's what it's supposed to be about,
Well, that was your job, wasn't it? Violence, and you're not. You don't join the parachute regiment to be a peacekeeper, and you don't do that in the Pathfinders either, do you? So, let's talk about the most up-to-date book. So, Regimental. That I was really flattered that you sent me a proofreading copy to have a look. Once I started it, couldn't put it down, absolutely blasted through it. I've already passed it on to a good mate of mine, an ex-bootneck, and said, you need to read this. And he actually, he was in the Royal Marines that took over from the Pathfinders, one of the Herricks as well. So there might be a bit of,
what BPT, was it? Brigade Patrol Troop, maybe?
I'll have to ask him. I don't know, man. I honestly don't know. That's a good question I'll put to him. But yeah, so I've already passed it on, but fantastic book. So I definitely want to do a review, and I want to just talk about it now. But the same with this one, you give us a bit of backstory of your upbringing, okay? Which when you read the book is undeniably fucking tough, mate. Really, really tough. And you read that, and then you read you as you're starting to grow up. And I said this to you the other day, and like some of the stuff that you're being completely honest about, you go, God, Steve's a bit of a bastard. He's a bit of a, you know, and you think, if I was a kid, I'd probably keep away from him. But that's from an adult's perspective. Then as you start reading it, it becomes apparent. You go, Steve's actually the guy you want looking after you, or you want him as your mate because he's a protector. All right. And then you can see this protection aspect really develop as you start to go through the military. You seem to always have somebody's back. And it's really interesting, mate. And you know what? Like it is a kind of account of your career right from the beginning, being Joe Crow at depot, day one, etc. Day one, week one, all the way through, getting battalion, your progress, Lance Corporal's Carder, your LERPS course, etc. SCBC, Pathfinders, platoon bloke, back into battalion again. That was really, I love that bit when you went back as a CSM and you didn't feel comfortable and you were just like, I'm literally just here. I want to mark time. Give me a job that's not too taxing so I can get back to Pathfinders. That's the position I want to finish in, CSM of Pathfinders, and then step off. And then when you talk about leaving the army, so there's a lot of content there, from training to your all your courses, all your courses, all your tours, and then obviously towards the end. So it's this ramp up, and then as you're coming down, that's what it feels like from the reader's perspective. Okay,
yeah,
we're on this journey with you as you go through your career, and as you're coming towards the end, it's like I'm coming towards the end of the book the same way he's coming towards the end of his career. And it's like, and you can feel the urgency in your words when you're writing, as in, shit, I'm out of here and I've got no prep, I'm not ready for this. And it's the realization of it kicking in. And that's, you know, that really comes across really well. And I love the fact this is a warts and all book where you're completely honest, you lay it out, and it's not bravado. You still play the grey man in every chapter, despite the fact that you are you know, a hyperachiever, and you have achieved a lot, and you would go, flipping, at least one switched on smart carrot ears. You know, by the end of it, you go, this guy's really struggling. And the way you're honest about that is really, it was really commendable, mate. And it was a tough read. There were times when I had to put the book down, and I was thinking, God, that's rough. That is. But what's great is, you know, although it's sad that, you know, with every door opening or with every door closing, sorry, another door opens. And yes, you finish that chapter, and the chapter, metaphorically speaking, on your career, you've gone on to do something else. And you've gone on to, you know, set up your own gym. You've gone on to self-publish 4 books, which is fantastic. And now you're concentrating on your new projects, which has been a good husband, been a good father, and been a good upstanding member of the community.
Yeah, cheers, mate. It's generous appraisal. Appreciate that. It's always good to get good. It's not good to get bad feedback. I must admit, Brett, it's like a kick in the nuts. It's you know, you've got to get, you know, you've got to accept it and try and use it productively. But it's always good to get positive feedback. Normally, it's, you know, a lot of good feedback I get is from people, especially veterans. Veterans sort of can really seem to relate, or people who've military families seem to relate well. But yeah, I've not had that much feedback on this one yet, because obviously it's still new. But yeah, it's good. I mean, that's a pretty good summary, really, mate. You know, it's like because other books I've done are just stories from here, there, and everywhere, and they're just like in chapters. Like, this is a chapter about jungles. This is a chapter about crazy mates of mine. This is a chapter about the times where like near misses or something like that. But this one's just chronological. I would say on by demand or popular demand, but it's not. It's like literally a few people who said to me, "Oh, you should write a book where it's all in in order." I was like, "All right, I will." But yeah, it's from start to finish, and it's taken me a long time, until I've got turned into the old grumpy old bastard I am now, to realise that there's the stuff that happens when you're a kid that does really shape you. Does really shapes you, and we spoke about it privately as well. There's stuff that you see or experience or feel as a kid, and it can and I realised that it's and it's recently, and even sort of more and more people I speak to, because I also speak to I do a lot. I run a mental health program, and I speak to a lot of people who've had struggles. Your childhood really shapes you as an adult. I believe that now. And I think not being a protective person or a protector is the right role for me, because I wanted to be able to protect people. When I was a little kid, I was just a little kid, and I was unable to do that. Felt like I'd failed, I guess, as a kid, and then as an adult, I managed to be able to do that. And even as a sergeant major, or sergeant, I was always really protective of my blokes, and then quite a few of them said to me since, as recently, that they felt they liked having me as a boss or a sergeant or as a sergeant major, because I knew that I had their back, and that's really really good to sort of hear, even actually years since. It's yeah, and the same with jiu-jitsu and martial arts. It's like it's all to an end. It's all for a reason for me. It's like, because I want to be able to protect myself, and I want to be able to protect the people I care about. Right. Yeah.
So as you were saying, Steve.
Yeah, so it's about protecting people, and then even when and myself. And my first karate class was when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, something like that. And we went there because my mum was struggling with this violent boyfriend. And I think she wanted to try and do something to protect herself. And her, my brother and myself, we went to this karate club. I can't remember how many. I just remember the first time really well, but I don't remember how many times we went. That was kind of for me. That was why we were learning karate, was for self-defense, for protection, and that's the way I see it. I see it now. So it's all about trying to look after people. I'm never going to be, I never want to be, or I've got no aspirations to be a world champion or any kind of champion. It doesn't. That's kind of side of it doesn't appeal to me. I don't like the anxiety of it all. You could just say, you could just say he's scared of losing, or whatever. You can say what you want. I don't care. I just like learning. For me, it's just about I like learning. I like teaching, and I like the empowerment it gives to people, especially I've got some really small men and women I teach, but they're savages. They're savages, and they can handle themselves, and I know it gives them a lot of confidence. And some big guys as well. I've got some really big guys who are in my club now, and since they started training, they told me, it's just really turned them around. They've got a newfound confidence, and that's what it's all about for me. It's not about belts or competitions. It's about survival. I'm a big fan of it. I like survival.
Well, I mean, it's called self-defense for a reason, isn't it? You've got to look after yourself first. Yeah. So, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely, mate.
It's really important what you said there. I think also on the role of what you were saying about getting great feedback when you was a platoon bloke and a platoon sergeant, I'd had a few moments where I reflect, like on positive role models that you had. And I think the role of a platoon bloke, your platoon sergeant, is so important in the army, that you get one that's a good one that looks after the lads. And like what you said, you got some great feedback where people were just going, yeah, we always felt like you looked after us and had our backs, etc. Those moments stay with you, for ages. And I'd had some cracking platoon sergeants, company sergeant majors, where you just thought, that person there was the father figure that I never had when I was younger. or that's the person I want to emulate when I'm older, etc. And I had this one, I had this one interaction with this one platoon sergeant, and I messaged him. I reached out and messaged him the other day. I think he's like the senior sergeant. I think he's still in the army, but he's at the Chelsea Pensioners Home, in London. So he took a late entry commission.
Oh, yeah.
Chelsea Pensioners, yeah. He took a commission, but I think they hold the rank of a regimental sergeant major of the Chelsea Pensioners Hospital, home, or whatever it is where they live. And I think he's there. And I messaged him on Instagram the other day, and I always say, when we passed out of training, he called. He was an Irish guard, and he called all the Irish guards in, and we had to wait outside his door. And he had a bottle of port ready to go. And and there were 7 of us going to battalion from a platoon of guys, and there were 7 Irish guards, and he had a glass of port for everyone, and he had a glass of port. And he said, Paddy's Day, which is a massive day in our battalion, he said Paddy's Day is approaching soon, and he said, obviously, the history of the port goes back to the First World War, when it was what they had in the trenches, etc., was what they could get hold of. And he says and he shared a glass of port with us, and it was fantastic. But he was such a mega bloke, you know what I mean? I remember when I seen him in battalion, and I was like, how you doing? And I was, a senior guardsman by then, and all right, Paul, how are you? And it felt weird, him calling me by my first name, and I was like, yeah. But I messaged him the other day, I'm 44 in April, and I messaged him and I said, you had a massive impact in my life when I was younger, and I want to say thank you. And I still, to this day, remember this glass of port. So every time I have a glass of port, I think of this guy, Frankie Howell. So Frankie, cheers. So I'm sure you've had the same. I'm sure you've had the same impact on young lads, Tom's, in your battalion, etc. And have you ever had anybody reach out and say, Steve, thanks a lot?
Yeah, there are a few, mate. Yeah, especially after you've been up to, after I released that with quite a lot of people reaching out to me, mate. And I've reached out, it's like you did. I've reached out to found them on social media, and reached out to like a few of my older, especially like depot staff, because I'm really grateful to them, and I've written about that in Regimental. So they've and I've said to them, you really turned my life around, and I really appreciate it. And I think, except that they might be the kind of bloke who's just part of the old school, doesn't like that sort of shit, and just think, fuck off, you little crow, or whatever, But it might be, but I don't care,
Yeah.
Everyone likes them. I think everyone, if they're honest, likes a pat on the back, and and to be fair, the guys who I've reached out to have sent messages back saying, glad it all worked out. But yeah, my first section commander in depot it's funny you say Frank. He was called Frank, and I've written about him in Regimental, probably in the others as well. I forget what I've written sometime, but he was like a massive influence on me, like massive. And I've definitely wrote in Regimental. There's few men I've idolised in my life, but he was one. And I never saw him. I saw him once or twice since I left depot. But it's just like he made such a massive impact on me. That's what I wanted to do. If I failed the Pathfinder Carter, that's what I was. My hope was, if I went back to battalion, then eventually I'd go to depot, either as a PTI or as a section commander. There's such a massive influence on blokes like me who were little bastards, and could have been quite easily ended up in prison, but went completely the other way. Because day one, the depot, which overwhelmed me. Depot overwhelmed me, and I was just like, it was a shockwave. It was a massive reality check. I thought I was a bit of a lad and all that. It's like, nah, mate. It's like these blokes are the business. These are real men. And if you fuck around, they're going to kill you. They're going to beat you to death. And that's how it felt to me. That's how depot felt to me. And there'll be people who are in depot with me who go, who didn't experience the same thing as me. Even at the same time, no doubt, and they'll remember things differently. But for me, it was like shock and awe, a massive sort of come down to earth, you know, there's real men out there, and you're just a little boy who knows nothing. You've got a lot to learn. Yes, in your ears back kind of stuff. But yeah, some really great leaders. You know, not so great as well. As obviously we all meet them, but you know, I try to focus on the positive ones, and yeah, some really good blokes. And you know, I think about like that bloke. I remember he was a corporal, and I still refer to him as like a corporal. But I think he left as a W2 or either a colour sergeant or a W2. You know, and but you know, I left as a sergeant major. But I'm still looking back when I'm a serving sergeant major. I'm looking back at that bloke in awe. You know, thinking, and I'm kind of looking up to this corporal. I mean, I'm not rank orientated at all, anyway. But you think that's kind of quite weird, I suppose. You know, looking back and really admiring someone who's a corporal, and somebody you know, when you're a sergeant major or whatever. But they make a massive effect, a massive impact on your life.
I think they paved the stone, or they set the tone for how you're going to kind of go on. One thing I really liked in the book, Steve, was the fact that when you were on these courses, you were quick to notice that, you know, these people that got to that rank, and you could see it just completely so egotistical, it had got to him, and you were like, I could never understand that. Do you know what I mean? And how you kind of call them out on it in the book, you know, because the way you say that about that corporal, I look at you and I go, God, he's a retired sergeant major, Pathfinders, man. That's a pinnacle of a position. You know what I mean? Yet you were still on these courses going, well, why is he being like that? Why is he flipping? What's the attitude? What's the ego? Where's that come from? You know what I mean? You think, just drop it and be more comfortable. That's probably their own issue, coming out with their own insecurities, which is usually the case. But I really like that in the book. I think this book will do, in my humble opinion, I think this book will do really well. I would say anybody who wants to join the Parachute Regiment should read this book. Now, I know, obviously, you trained back in, and it was 93, wasn't it, that you joined? 93?
Yeah, 93.
Yeah. Training's obviously going to be, 20 years later, it's going to be massively different to a certain thing, to a certain degree. There are still some fundamentals that remain, okay? But I think anybody wanting to join should definitely read that book. And I think that's where you'll do really well. I think, lads will be looking at that, and girls, because they can join now. But anybody will be looking at that and going, that is a great manual, a G10 manual to what to expect, when they go in.
Yeah. I think you're probably right, mate. I get a few people message me on a lot of social media, young lads or girls, and mostly, in fact, I don't think I've had any girls, but blokes joining the army and saying, "What do you think I should do?" And I feel like I've been going for some runs. Do you think I should go running with a Bergen? And but there's not really that much information out there. I think that book details quite a lot of stuff that goes on in depot, and like P company and Pathfinder selection. But a fair bit of sort of detail on those events, those courses. But so that would definitely be helpful for them kind of people. But I always say, just let the depot, just go get their running fit, body weight fitness fit, push ups, sit ups, chin ups, be a good runner, and then as long as that's your basic level of fitness. And then I'm sure it's more advanced now. I don't doubt for a minute they still get absolutely beasted in depot. I think it's probably more scientific, and there's a lot more information out there now, so they can train them properly, so they don't get injured. And it's more specific training, I'd imagine, than just running around and getting beasted up and down hills. But I mean, to be fair, ours was pretty. I think it was pretty good when I was there. We got to obviously just get beasted. It's like it's the same. It's not just para reg. I guess it's everybody in the army would say the same thing. They got beasted every day. I mean, we definitely did get beasted, but and there was a lot of injuries. It's a lot of wastage, probably unnecessary. But I don't know. I don't know if it's changed or what. I like to think. I try not to be that person who says things have got easier or harder, because I don't. it doesn't matter. I think that person, all you can do is that individual. You've got no control over it. Because I've never been into this old sweat sort of nonsense. All you can do is what's put in front of you. So when I went through, it's like people were saying to me, well, it's harder in my day. And it's like, what do you want me to do about that? There's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah.
You know, what do you want me to do? Make it harder? Do you want me to go, you know, beast myself in the evening, or, you know, when I'm supposed to be sleeping? It's like, you don't know.
Beast yourself
sure
in your bed.
I'm sure it's still hard. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I've never understood it, mate. But it's sort of creeping. You know, it was harder in my day. I don't understand any of that nonsense. It's just bullshit. It's just, and it doesn't matter because you can't affect it anyway. I mean, I remember people getting real cock on, really upset that they heard the recruits were allowed to have duvets or quilts in depot. And I've heard loads of people going about that. You know, they've got fucking quilts in depot. You know, who cares? I just thought, just don't care. You know, making a bed block was a pain in the ass, but you know, making your bed down, making a bed, whether it's making a bed block or making your bed like with hospital corners, of course it's a pain in the ass. But you know, there's other things that they're doing now that we didn't do, and we were in training. You know, there'll be loads of the communications kit's much more difficult, much more complex. You know, it's like they've got to spend longer doing stuff like that. They've got to learn about computers and, you know, and people say, oh, when I was in, and the radio weighed 50 pounds. It's like, I'm sure it did. Now the radio might weigh 20 pounds, but that soldier's carrying night vision goggles, you know, his night sights. He's carrying loads of other technological stuff. So he's still carrying a load of kit. It's just better kit. There's no getting away from it. You've got to carry lots of water. You've got to carry lots of food. You know, I've just never bought into it. It's one person had it so much harder than the next. So, and if they did, who cares? I don't care.
Do you, as a kind of, you know, a previous position of, well, I suppose you still are now, actually, position of authority, especially with your books, your position as a gym owner or a BJJ school owner. But from the guys like from Pathfinders, maybe Free Power, etc., does everyone, do you get those people that like reach out and go, Steve, I need help? Or, you know, I know everyone's got their own problems that they deal with it differently, but do you get those phone calls late at night, or do you get the phone calls where they just go, look, I need help? Because that's, I say from when I speak to you, I still get the protective role model that you're in. Yeah. And that's very hard to switch off from. And nobody wants to be Jack and just turn the phone off and just go, look, you're not my problem, etc.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, mate, I'm quite good. I'm not amazing, but I'm quite good at keeping in touch with people. I know people are busy, you know, and I try, even if it's like once a year or something, whether it's a text or a phone call. But it's more if I pick up on something, if I hear through, you know, third party that someone's struggling, I'll normally reach out and message them or phone them. I like to do, you know, try and meet people as much as I can, but face to face. But you know, if not phone call, and if not worst case scenario by text. But yeah, I'm in comms with a few blokes who are having a really hard time. And I've seen a few blokes. I've seen a few blokes go wibble now. You know, quite a few. And because there's a couple I've seen starting to lose it, and I've sort of noticed it. I noticed that they're acting in a way I was acting. You know, when I was kind of losing it. So I was trying to, you know, try and intervene and help them out, and just, yeah, I do. There's a few blokes. There's a few blokes, mate. I'm in regular contact with who are just they're like on the edge, you know. And I know, and because of what I've written, it makes it a lot easier for those blokes to open up to me, you know, because you know, I'm not holding anything back. I'm not.
Absolutely.
Like even my title of my book, Regimental. I mean, obviously it's a little bit of a play on words.
Yeah.
Mental. It's in there. It's like, I know, just it's not making fun of it, and it's not kind of making it not trying to make myself special or say, oh, I'm mental, me, you know, look at me, I'm mental. It's nothing like that. It's just that I accept that I've got some mental health issues, but I've got them fairly well under control. And but at the same time, it's like, oh, man, lots of other people haven't quite It's just education. They've not been taught. They don't even know. A lot of people don't even realise that what they're thinking is a bit nuts, very nuts. It's like, fucking hell, man. It's like, you know, if I said some stuff to you, you'd just nod along. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And then like most blokes, other people who've been in the military or, you know, been on tours or whatever, we just nod along and sort of like it's normal conversation. But then you say that to someone in Civvy Street or someone who's not got them shared experiences, and they've got literally like back in the seat, like, what the fuck? You know, like, oh. And then, you know, and when you say it to a psychologist, and they're really good at pointing out to you, because they're obviously very good at that sort of stuff. And they're like, oh, no, let's just go back a little bit, and then, you know, they'll make you say it again, and make you sort of think about what you just said, and you're like, oh yeah, that's fucking mental. You know, yes, it is. And then you sort of say it to your mates after, you know, when you go back to work or whatever in the block or whatever, and say, but they don't see it. But, you know, therapy can really help you out. But,
did writing the books help? Because I just think of the process of reflection anyway. You know, the general process of reflection is, right, write down what I did, what did I learn from it? If in that situation, what would I do again? So has writing these books been, especially, you know, Regimental, has that been good therapy for you, or good reflection, or, you know, has it, you know, sped up the healing process or the process of acceptance of where you are now?
Yeah, massively, mate, massively. Because like you say, this is something I realised during I had a lot of therapy, and it's therapy really is reflection. In my kind of that's how I see it anyway, in my opinion. And you got these therapists, they just point you in the right direction, so you reflect in a certain way, and it goes in, and you're like, that's how it seemed to me anyway. But yeah, writing is really, really cathartic, and because obviously you're trying to explain it to someone else, so you're like you'll spend a long time trying to find that word that describes how you were feeling or what you were thinking, rather than just write down a generic word. You know, like, I was scared. This made me really scared. Were you really scared, or were you slightly terrified, or were you, you know, a bit confused, or were you apprehensive, or just like, you know, that's when the old thesaurus can come in handy, because you're like, I wasn't that. And I'll do that a lot when I'm writing. I'll write like the word, say, anxious. I'll write anxious synonyms, and then you go actually, and then another word. You know, obviously it's just, you have to understand words a little bit, but that really helps. You're like, actually, no, I wasn't scared. I was just anxious. I write in that book about, and I've written it, but I've written it from a different angle before, about when our vehicle got surrounded in Macedonia by a lot of people really, really angry, rocking the vehicle. You know, and it was, you could say, you know, some people would say that would be surprised if you told them you were scared. I really thought about that, man. I really think about everything I write down. I was like, I wasn't scared. I was just thinking, I'm fucking gonna kill somebody. These people, I was thinking, if these people get their hands on me, they're gonna fucking tear me to bits. And I was really thinking about the guys in Northern Ireland, you know, the two signallers who got really brutally killed in Northern Ireland, dragged out the car in that moment. And I was thinking, that's not happening to me. I thought, you know, I'm going to go out for swinging. And I remember it really clearly. And it's Macedonian soldier who was watching. And I thought, as soon as I start shooting, he'll shoot me anyway. And I thought, I'll probably get quite a quick death anyway. I wasn't scared. I was just thinking, I was getting a bit wound up really. I was kind of offended that they thought they were intimidating me, because I was sat with my rifle. They couldn't really see it because I was in a Land Rover, hardtop Land Rover. My rifle across my leg, but I had the safe to catch off. We were always made ready anyway, allegedly. But I just had the weapon pointing at this bloke who was not on the door handle. I thought, well, as soon as that door opens, I said to the bloke driving, as soon as that door opens, I'm going to start shooting, and you better be fucking ready to start shooting as well. And he was a lot more passive than me. He's like, oh no, we don't need that. Calm down. I said, mate, I'm not getting dragged out of this wagon. I'm not getting dragged out of this wagon. As soon as that door opens or that window goes, I'm going to start shooting. I'm safe catches off. I just thought, nah. Yeah, I've kind of gone around it a long way, but yeah, it made me think, you know, was I scared, or do you think you don't want to try? You're not trying to act tough. You're being honest, writing things down. Maybe I was scared, right? But the way I remember it. I wasn't scared. I was kind of pissed off that they thought I should be scared. Like they thought they were scaring me. I'm thinking, I'm the one here. I'm pointing a rifle at your belly. You know, I know all I've got to pull this trigger and it's over for you. And then I'll just stop. And then the next person, I'll shoot them. And I'll just keep shooting until I get shot by that. That's all right. But yeah, writing really, really gets you thinking, mate.
I remember reading that
I think it's
chapter.
another good thing about writing rather than speaking it.
Sorry, Steve, I interrupted you there. Sorry, say that again.
That's what, mate. No, I'll finish, mate. Carry on.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so I remember reading that chapter and just thinking that's the best kind of description of being in the moment. You know, laser focus. You know, when you were sat there completely calm. You know, so all that training that you do, basic training, infantry training, any training, continuous training through battalion, to prepare you to be calm and not panic and start flapping around like a headless chicken, thinking, I've got to get out of it. Like the woman from Airplane, you know, that scene in Airplane. I got to get out of here. I got to go. And they're all queuing up to slap her. And you're just there, just going, right, as soon as this goes, I'm ready to go. And that is just like laser focus. Yeah. But that's the culmination of that lifestyle, that training, to be in that scenario, in the storm, you know, like live in the eye of the storm. And just think, yeah, I'm ready. It's interesting, mate. It's like you definitely get that feeling. And it's interesting what you said about the title, you know, regimental and and mental, you know, because that's what they say, isn't it? You know, when you come out the forces, he's too regimented. Yeah, they equate that characteristic to somebody that served for a long time. He's too regimented. He can't adjust. You know, and you think when you look at it, you go, and you're honest about that, the impact that it has, the time that you give. You know, I love that. That it was a real poignant moment in the book where you talk about that penny drop moment where it really became clear where you were leaving, when you were in the office and those two guys came in to hand in their ID cards. They're on their last day. And you weren't involved in their conversation, but they just came in and they were like chatting to each other. They exchanged numbers. Yeah, stay in touch, blah, 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 blah. Handed in their ID cards. They walked out. And once the door shut, that was it. And you went out and there was like an empty corridor thinking, that could have been the best sniper in battalion, the best PTI. That person probably could have gone on and passed selection, etc. Now they're gone. They're just gone, never to be seen again by yourself or never to be heard of again, in essence. But that one moment, you know, and you weren't even, and you observed that moment, you weren't even involved in it. You were outside of it, looking in and going, that's going to be me soon. Shit.
It's everybody, mate. Yeah, it's right. And everyone's, you know, no one's irreplaceable, which is correct. You know, I get it. And you've kind of taught that. I think you learn that really early on in depot, because you start making recruit training, because you start making friends, and then you come back from a run or something, and that bed space is empty. I'm sure it's the same in the guards. They don't. You know, once someone's gone, they don't let them hang around and start infecting other people with negative thoughts or whatever. You just come back and they're gone. You think, where's he gone? He's like, he's gone, mate. And that's it. That person is no longer, you know, in your platoon. You're never going to see that person again. You know, there's no time to go, oh, no one talks about him and says, oh, he's a really great guy, I'll miss him. It's like that. It's next. It's just like, next thing you know, you're running out the corridor again, you know, and just getting beasted, getting sent running around the block or wherever you're doing. And that person's just a distant memories really, really quickly. I think it's the conditioning, whether it's probably not even deliberate. The conditioning starts really early on in depot, and it's the same on, you know, where you know, in a battle. Think of somewhere like the Falklands. So blokes would get shot. I've spoke to blokes who had the bloke to the left and the bloke to the right of them was shot in battle. And they're just, you know, that's it. They're gone. But that person didn't stop. It's like they're dead, and they just kept going. You know, and I know a couple of blokes like that who were in the Falklands. Told me very similar stories to each other. But there's no fucking hanging around and dwelling on. You know, you've got to keep moving forward, and that's the same. You know, on a bigger scale. It's the same, I think, in the military. You got to keep, the wheel has to keep on turning.
Yeah.
No one's irreplaceable. You know, if your section commander gets shot, the 2IC takes over. You know, and if
Yeah.
you know if he's got a 3IC, he's fucking now 2IC. Or if you haven't nominated a 3IC, you better start nominating people real quick. And that's just the way it works. And it's good. It's good and bad. It kind of conditions you to be quite hard in your thought processes, you know. But as a military person, you've got to just keep moving forward, keep the momentum going. That's it. That's the way it works. And I like that. There's a lot about it I like. As a, you know, Civvy Street, maybe it's not so good to be able to be cut things away that would be that cold, that quick. But you know, I'm sure you're the same. It's like you just got to keep moving. You've got to be pragmatic.
Yeah, I think when you make a comparison to both, I think the military, you're running at fast pace from point A to point B. Do you know what I mean? And you haven't got time to stop.
Yeah.
For a piss or to talk or to feel anything. You know what I mean? You haven't got time for that. Just get from here to there. And I mean that on a bigger spectrum as well. And not that I you know, did a full career, but I mean from the time you're here to, and then sometimes that can take somebody's full career. You just keep going and you don't really stop. Whereas Civilian Street, they're slow marching.
Yeah.
You know, they are stopping for breaks, and they're stopping
good,
for breaks. You know, they're slow marching, they're stopping for breaks. We'll have a little break in, we'll do this, etc. And that's probably like one way I'd make a comparison. And when you do swap over and you have to stop and you have to take stock of things, that's when you go, flip, and now I wasn't prepared for that, or you know, I wasn't expecting that, so to speak.
Yeah, I think you kind of realise what's important. Something else I wrote about in Regimental was like not necessarily identity politics, but it's like how you in the military kind of teaches you what's important. It doesn't even teach you; it's just happens organically. It's like, you know, I was writing up. No one in the army, I never experienced anyone dwelling on or focusing on anyone's race, religion, sexual orientation, any of that. No, it's like, it's just, who cares? You know, in that environment, you know, people think it's all very macho, and of course there is a fair bit of testosterone knocking around, but it's, you know, diversity's there massively, and people just don't care. It's like, it's irrelevant, mate. You know, we can all get shot. Any one of us can tread on a mine. It doesn't matter what your God looks like, or, you know, whether you dress up as in women's clothes or men's clothes, or whatever you do in your private life. Isn't really that important to the bigger, because we've got a bigger picture here, and that bigger picture could be to mount an attack, take some ground, you know, it could be capability development, it could be anything. It's like, you know, the fact that you know, you want to be called they, them, there's no time for that. So what? It's like, you know, we're all called private this or corporal that, or shithead or crow or whatever it is. And then imagine if you were to start playing, you know, playing to that tune, it would just, nothing would get done. And the same was if, you know, if you start dwelling on people being injured or people falling behind, or it's like nothing would get done. You just got to focus on the actual things that actually matter, and that is moving forward, progressing, achieving the aim, completing the mission. You know, and it's like, I'm not trying to sound dramatic, but in my mind, that's how it works. You know, if you haven't got a mission, you're really struggling. And I said, that's one of the problems with Civvy Street for me anyway. So what's my mission? What's my purpose now? You know, I've finished that book. I'm not writing a book. I need a mission. You know, that mission could be anything. But it's like, now at the minute, my mission is growing, is promoting my book. You know, and I admit I'm not very good at it, because obviously in the military we're all about being the grey man, like you say. Even in my book, you know, no, I didn't. You're the first person to kind of highlight that to me. But you say, you know, I'm like I remain the grey man throughout my book, which you could say is that's not what you're supposed to do when you're writing a book about yourself. It's you know, it's but you need a mission. You need a mission, and you know, I like the army was great because it's like Ravalli. fitness in the airborne anyway. Fitness is at 8. Everyone knows that. Fitness is 8 till 10. Right. And it's like you get up and you will be at that parade point at 8 o'clock when you're going for a run or a tab or wherever you're going, you're going to do some PT. And that's how your day starts. Whereas now I'm like, I don't have to get up at the minute because I've got a regular job. I don't have to get up at any time. So it's like, actually, I'll miss that. You know, it's like, it's good to have a schedule and a mission, you know, purpose. Get up, do this. You know, got, you know, little things I take, like I was saying earlier, taking the dog for a walk. It's you know, that's a purpose. We've got to take the dog for a walk. But if you haven't got them little things to keep pushing you forward, what happens? I think you stagnate. You know, there's a real risk of that when you leave the military. You can't. You know, I don't think you're going to find that job. It's going to be hard to find a job that sort of fulfills what you had in the military. It's going to be really, really difficult. But you can just try. You know.
Well, that's
maybe,
it. I suppose
maybe not try and fulfill it. Maybe just go in a different route.
Well, I suppose that's where, you know, now you've left all that. That's the mission changes. The mission becomes about yourself. You're your own project, your family, your kids. You know, your mission is to be the best father, to be the best provider and protector to your family, to be that, not the head figure, the figurehead of the school, of the BJJ school, because people will inevitably look up to you for leadership and guidance. And that works at a much slower pace. And the risk factors are not the same. The risk factors are not the same.
Yeah.
You know, that level of threat, it's gone, hasn't it, Steve? It's not there anymore, you know?
Yeah, that's right. And even simple things like social media or podcasting. Like, you know, I used to get really upset with my blokes if they put things on social media. You know, anything that could be compromising. Pictures of them, you know, a bit of berry on, or, you know, documentation in the background. I used to, if I saw it, I wasn't on social media for a long, long time. I used to like, hear about it, and I'd make sure it's gripped, you know. So like, this is bad, you know. Kind of PERSEC, I think it's used more than OPSEC now, but
yeah,
personal security is not. But now it's like, man, my life's like, pretty much everything about me is out there and in the public domain. I've sold my soul to the devil, but well, it doesn't really matter. I'm not in the military anymore. I'm just trying to spread a message, and you know, but it's difficult, mate. You know, it's difficult.
Well, you haven't sold your soul, Steve. You haven't sold out at all. You've done your time. You now need to provide for your family and yourself. And how do you do that? Well, you've got stories to tell. Okay, that's, you know, and that's evident in the books. So there's nothing wrong with that. Those books won't sell themselves unless you do get out there. You've got to kind of, there needs to be you need to have that, like, you know, unwritten subconscious contract where it says, for me to get this out there and for me to make money off it, I've got to do podcasts. I've got to talk. I've got to be open. I can't keep playing the grey man, etc. I've got to come to terms with the fact that I'm going to, you know, speak to people and I'm going to have to big up certain situations. Yeah, which you might not feel necessarily comfortable with, you know, where you think, oh, you know, I'm not used to that at all. But I think the longer it goes on, the more comfortable you will come. You will get better at it, mate, and you will. Not saying that you're not, but I'm just saying, you know, it will become easier, and you will come to terms with the fact that, right, for me to sell these books, I've got to talk to these people, I've got to do a post about it, etc. It's just part and parcel of it. That's, you know, you're Steve Brown, the author now, mate, and that's how books get sold.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just keep moving forward, mate. Keep moving forward, and hopefully people like it and share it. But don't share the book. So a few mates, I've got loads of mates of mine said, "Oh yeah, I got your book off Craig," and Craig got your book off Dan, and Dan gave it to. Fucking tight fuckers, buy your own copy. It's like, yeah, you just gotta get people out there, get word of mouth. Because loads of boys said, oh, yeah, everyone in there read your book, or everyone that on this tour was reading your book. I'm thinking, you bastards, just stop sharing it. You know, burn it or something. Buy your own copy and set it on fire so someone else can buy one.
Brilliant, mate.
It goes a little bit of money goes in my pocket.
Good stuff. All right, mate. Well, listen, this has been fantastic. I really enjoyed today. Any messages, anything apart from the book that we've kind of like discussed heavily? Is there anything else you want to plug? The club? Anything up and coming? Any seminars?
No seminars, mate, but we're training 4 times a week now at my club. I'm on Instagram, Combat Wadebridge. Facebook is Combat Athletics Academy Wadebridge. Yeah, we're doing 4 times a week, 2 no-gi, 2 gi, 2 classes in Wadebridge, 2 classes in Nuki, all age 16 and above, preferably, but mixed classes, all levels, all genders, all 100 genders. Yeah, so if anyone's in the area, drop in.
Brilliant.
Be welcome. Have a good laugh.
Awesome. Right, mate. Thanks for your time today, buddy, and I wish you the best with the book and the club going forward.
Nice one. Cheers, Paul. Take it easy, mate.